towards the bill of the 2023 Western Star. So currently that is around 266,000. So when the truck arrives, it'll be minus the 40,000. So
Okay.
it has nothing to do with the 2024 Kenworth that's on the agenda later.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions on that for Dave? If not, let's go to that request of the 2000.
I can't hear anybody. Uh-oh. Okay, I guess you can hear me, but I can't hear you. So this is a plow truck that we ordered 2 years ago, and we just put it on hold. We never canceled the order, and good thing we didn't, because it stayed right in the queue, and we are now finally ready for it to go to manufacturing in July. So this truck will be, by the time it gets built and the body's put in, it'll come in right on time, right before winter. So this will be for the 2024 budget. Tell you what, if you can just move back to me, I'm gonna go and call on the phone, because I obviously have a bad signal. Maybe I can just call on the phone. I can't get it to fucking work. Stupid thing sucks.
Additionally, I know that there was previous to my becoming president with backstops, 2 of them were replaced at the Lily Fields, which are where the T-ballers and the 8U's play. The 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds. There's still 2 temporary backstops that I feel like are a safety hazard. I believe that Amy said that this was already approved, but I know we didn't get them installed this year. So I'd just like to make sure that that's on the docket for after the season, if we can get that taken care of, because trying to keep little kids off the fences is a challenge to begin with. So the quicker we can get that done, that would be fantastic. But so I just
town clerk will take your money. Be glad to.
Has any questions?
Thank you very much. We appreciate working with us on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, Carol, Megan.
You can stay if you want to hear the audits. Just we didn't want to push you out. Yeah.
You'll learn a few things, maybe. So Carl, I don't know if you want to hold that mic, you can pull it right out of there if it's easier for you.
Sure.
All right. All set?
Yep.
All right. Good evening, everyone. The board. Thanks for having us tonight. I'm Carl Widmer, partner at Drescher Malecki, and with me tonight is Megan Winneck, manager. And we serve as the town's external auditors here tonight to report on the preliminary results and findings for our audit of the town's fiscal year ended December 31st, 2022. So we wrapped up the majority of our testing in March and April, and then just the past couple of weeks have been working with supervisor in his office to put together the draft financial statements. They were circulated a couple of weeks ago, finalizing a few numbers and disclosures, but a full draft will be circulated very shortly. I think we sent updated drafts even Friday, and they'll get to the full board if they haven't been there yet. So the presentation tonight that's in front of you, similar to past years, and really it's intended to cover not just the financial statement highlights as far as dollars on the fiscal year, but as well as what is our responsibility as your auditors, what's the town's responsibility being audited, and why do you do it? So we put together a slideshow just to touch on a few key areas, starting with, if you flip to the next page, the products of our audit, the deliverables, if you will. Each year, this is what you can expect. First, of course, are the basic financial statements. The town puts these together annually. And the important piece, why Drescher Malecki is hired by the town, is to provide our independent opinion on the town's financial statements. So the town has the responsibility and the staff in place and the accounting software in place to manage the transactions of all the different funds throughout the year. During the audit process, that's put together into a financial statement form. And then ultimately that financial statement gets issued to the public. So your resident taxpayers, granting agencies, banks, debt market, they're going to be considered your users of the financial statements. And why an auditor matters is while they, I'm sure, believe this staff in town to be fully competent to put them together, they still want that independent third-party verification to come through and provide that assurance that the financial statements can be relied upon as being accurate and fairly stated for the year. That's where we come in. So we're an independent external auditing firm, do this each year. One thing to note is the town's financial statements past years, and again, this year has gone an extra effort to issue what's called an annual comprehensive financial report. It's the basic financial statement kind of on steroids. There's a few extra supplemental sections that help include some historical data 10 years back. That's not typically required in the basic financial statement package. So we do help the town compile that report, and that gets submitted to the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association. They evaluate it with a a 90-page checklist to make sure it meets the requirements. And then ultimately, the town has been, submitting a quality report to merit receiving the award of financial reporting in excellence. So hopefully that will come through again. The town received their award for last year's report. It's our hopes and the town's hopes that you receive it again for this year's report. So in addition to the financial statements, there is a separate financial statement that's put together on the cash basis of accounting, a little bit easier to follow, and that's with the town's departments. So that covers the activity for the clerk, tax receiver, justices, and the recreation department. So that's also part of our deliverables. Next is the AUD. That's the annual update document. This is an item that the state comptroller's office requires of every municipality in the state. They want each municipality to submit their financial information in a format that the comptroller's office wants, specific to them. They have their own software. So that's something that we help take the town's records and put them into the format that the comptroller's office would like to see. And they also ask for it very early. That was due April 1st. And we helped submit that online through the comptroller's office. So that was submitted successfully. Two more items, a management letter. This is our opportunity. Our firm is working with many municipalities, not just in Erie County, but across the state at the town level, county level, schools. So we're exposed to a lot of situations that the town of Aurora may encounter. As far as staffing issues or best practices within a finance office, budgeting ideas. If there's anything that we think might be of value to this group, we'll bring it to you in the form and formalize it in this management letter. So that'll include housekeeping items that we think internal controls, maybe review over certain procedures could get a little bit better, or just ideas looking forward. For example, in past years, we've recommended making sure you stay on top of the ARPA requirements so that the money you spend is going to be in compliance with the requirements. So just an example of what's in there. Finally, an auditor communications letter. Each year, there are a few communications that, as your external auditor, we're required to communicate to the board. I'd mentioned before that users of the financial statements are going to be relying on Drescher Malecki's opinion that the financial statements can be relied on. So it's imperative that we review our relationships with the town, the board. If I had any close family or Megan had any close family working for the town, it wouldn't be appropriate for us to serve as your external auditors because it would be considered an independence issue. So each year we review those relationships and make sure we're in the right unbiased position. This year we're in a good position to move forward. Outside of that, I think we'll move on to some of the financial highlights. If anybody had any questions on the audit process side of things, I could take those now. Otherwise, we'll move on to Megan, who's going to walk through the four largest funds today.
Good evening. As Carl mentioned, we're going to go through the town's major special revenue funds and also the general fund. If you want to flip to slide number 3, we're starting with the Water Districts Fund. This is similar to charts that you've seen in prior years. It compares the past 5 years of revenues and expenditures, the revenues being in the blue line and the expenditures in the red. There was a slight decrease in revenues this year, coming in at $1,140,000. The revenues in this fund, they're mainly through real property taxes. Your expenditures also saw a decrease, coming in at $1,178,000. The main expenditures in this funds are related to your long-term debt. So as you continue to pay down that long-term debt, you'll continue to see the expenses in this fund decrease. Overall, your expenditures outpace your revenues, seeing a slight decrease in fund balance of $38,000. On slide number 4, this is the breakdown of the past 5 years of the fund balance classifications for the Water Districts Fund. With 2022 being all the way on the right, that red portion, that represents cash in the water districts that don't have debt related to it. So that cash has been restricted. The grayish green portion, that's the amount that's been appropriated in the 2023 budget. And the remaining blue portion, that's what's available for use for the Water District Fund. One way to determine the health of a fund is to compare that available fund balance to the current year expenditures. In 2022, that blue portion is 81% of the current year expenses as compared to 73% in the prior year.
So it's a negative trend. Is that correct?
The amount available for spending has increased. It's 83.
So it's bad. So it's an improvement.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
On the next slide is the Highway Part-Town Fund. The revenue line saw a slight increase of 32,000 coming in at 2 million. The increase is attributable to an increase in the allocation of sales tax that's passed through Erie County. That amount, the amount that was assigned to the highway fund increased this year. Your expenses also saw an increase of about 171,000 coming in at 1.9 million. That increase is attributable to the paving of Underhill Road. That project was done this year. And there was also a slight increase in your personal services lines for some of the storms that we had during 2022. Overall, your revenues outpaced your expenses and your fund balance increased about 131,000. Slide number 6 breaks down that highway fund balance. The very top, the small olive green portion, that's non-spendable. That's for expenses that you paid in 2022, but they relate to services that you'll get in 2023. So that is earmarked as non-spendable because you already technically spent it. The grayish green portion, that's the amount that's appropriated in the 2023 budget. And then that dark blue portion, that 870,000, that represents 46.6% of the highway fund's expenses in the current year as compared to 40.3% in the prior year. The next fund we'll look at is the Highway Part-Town Fund. Your blue, your revenue line, that's relatively consistent with the prior year, coming in at 2,031,000. There was an increase in the real property taxes in this fund, and that was offset by a decrease in the sales tax that was allocated to the Part-Town Fund. Your expenses increased about 54,000, coming in at 1.8 million, and that's related to those that invoice that you pay to the village for the police services. So that amount increased this year. Overall, your revenues in this fund outpaced your expenditures, and your fund balance increased about 285,000. The next slide, breaking down that Part-Town Fund. The gray portion, that's the amount that's appropriated for the 2023 budget. The orangish reddish portion, that amount has been assigned for police services. That is, since the cash hasn't gone out the door for that, for the police services, that amount has been assigned by the town to pay for the future police services. The remaining blue portion that's available for the Part-Town Fund, that is 578,000 and represents 32.8% of the current year expenses as compared to 21.9% in the prior year. The last fund we'll look at is the general fund. Basically, if some kind of operations don't fall into the other specific special revenue funds, it's accounted for in the general fund. Your revenues increase about $808,000, coming in at 4.1 million. The largest reason for this increase is you were able to recognize some of that American Rescue Plan Act funding that you received. You're able to recognize that revenue as the expenses are incurred. So you were able to recognize about 489,000 this year, along with an increase in fines and forfeitures that you brought in. And also you had an increase in your mortgage tax revenue that you received. On the other side, your expenses increased about 309,000. Your expenses for the pool project that hit your culture and recreation line this year, that was about 205,000. And then the remaining increase, that was the money transferred over to the capital projects fund, and that's ARPA funding as well. Overall, your revenues outpaced your expenses and your fund balance increased 451,000. On slide number 10, the breakdown of the fund balance in the general fund. The olive green, that's your non-spendable, And you also have about 100,000 there that's been restricted for reassessment. The grayish green portion, that is 142,000 that is committed for future debt service payments. You have about 50,000 assigned for software and 1.7 million assigned for future capital improvements. Your remaining blue, the amount that's available for use, that is 1.8 million and represents 49.5% of current year expenses as compared to 70% in the prior year. So while your fund balance went up, you also have identified future capital projects that you are going to use that fund balance for. The last slide, observations. As Carl had mentioned, we don't just test the numbers in your financial statements. We also test your internal controls that are laid out in your policies and procedures, basically the safeguards for those numbers that are in the financial statements. And we're happy to report, and we commend the town on having no reportable findings for the financial statements this year, which is the same as last year. If you have any questions on the financial statements, you can let us know now. You can also reach out to us at any time in the year. If you have questions that come up, you can reach out to us directly through this contact information, or you can send it through the supervisor's office as well.
Thank you, Megan. Any questions for Megan?
Very thorough. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That kind of snaps in.
This is the hard part of the presentation, right?
There you go.
Carol, are you complete?
We're all set.
Any questions for Carol or Megan from the board? Or what would your general consensus be of the health of the town at this point?
Town is in a strong financial position for sure. I think you saw, in the majority of the funds that we presented, other than the water district fund, you saw increases in fund balance. It's a good time to be a town in Erie County. Sales tax and mortgage tax is definitely favorable, more so than you would have expected, which is evident by it outperforming the town budget. And it was good to see a closer look into how the fund balance can be assigned, looking at commitments that are on the town's docket of big spending, one-time spending, things that aren't in your annual operating budget. That's what you want to identify for applying some of your fund balance, some of your reserve monies towards. So having a closer look and filling out that list of to-dos is a smart move that we're happy to see.
Anybody else? No. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Appreciate it. I see our legislator is here tonight. Did you want to speak or talk to the board? I don't want to keep you here through all this okay. All right. Thank you.
Supervisor Bach, I received a text from Dave Gunner. I've now become the mouthpiece for Dave Gunner. He said he submitted a request to hire. He's hoping for a young man to start tomorrow. I do not see it on the agenda.
That is an addition that's.
Okay, good. All right, I'll let him know as his secretary.
Yeah, it was a late addition for him. Never made the agenda. So
Okay.
we're adding it. So. Okay. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. So we have a motion to approve the May 8th, 2023 work session and meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Chuck, second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Next, we have audience. This is an opportunity for anybody in the audience to come up and speak to the board about any of the items that are on the agenda. No? Nobody? Okay. Unfinished business. We have the payment request for Church Street Bridge project and the East Fillmore Bridge project, and this is for Foyt Albert. Please consider approval of payment number 7 to Foyt Albert in the amount of $5,654.84 for professional services rendered from April 1, 2023 through April 28, 2023 for the Church Street Bridge replacement project. The funds will be dispersed from H75120.210. Let's vote on that one first. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Joe, second by Luke. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, it's carried. And then we have the East Fillmore Bridge. And that's payment number 7 in the amount of $3,962.43 for professional services rendered from April 1st, 2023 through April 28th, 2023 for the East Fillmore Avenue Bridge Replacement Project. And the funds will be dispersed from H75120.210. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chuck,
I'll second.
second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. New business, and this is where we are adding N. And this is a request to hire for highway department. Do I have a motion to add N?
So moved.
Motion by
I'll second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. And that is carried. We already did A, which was a donation for the East Aurora baseball, softball. Okay, we need, I'm sorry, we need a motion to accept that. $1,000 donation from East Aurora baseball. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Motion by Luke,
Second.
second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. Okay, now Dave's stuff. This is a request to surplus the following international trucks and accessories: the 2009 International Truck 324, the 2009 Smith Spreader, the Viking main plow wing, and the Viking 10-inch or 10-foot wing. Also, the 2009 International Truck, which is a 7600, which is truck number 328, and the 2009 Smith Spreader, the 2014 main plow, and the Viking 10-foot wing. Do I have a motion to surplus?
So moved.
Motion by Chuck,
I'll second.
second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. And I just want to add that these were our credits going towards the purchase of another truck in the amount of $40,000. Okay, requests to purchase a 2024 Kenworth dump truck with a Henderson plow. This was as per contract for $124,000 and dump and plow equipment to be manufactured and installed by Henderson Projects for $136,298. Total cost being $260,951 and will be paid out of the 2024 budget from account DB 5130.217. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Joe. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Luke. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's carried. Okay, another request from Dave. Please approve putting a notice in the paper, request truck bids for a new highway pickup truck. The expense will be taken out of DB 5130.217 with the listing of the bid specifications on the second page. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Chuck,
I'll second.
second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's carried. And another request from Dave Gunner, spending all the money tonight. Request to surplus the 2020 Dodge pickup truck. 325 is the number, with the intent to sell it through Auctions International and use the revenue towards a new pickup truck. Do I have a motion to surplus?
So moved.
Motion by Jim,
Second.
Second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I think we're almost done with Dave's stuff. We have one other thing. Okay. All right. F is the replace section 5.04 of the employment policy that we talked about in the work session. This is in request from our labor attorney to change some wording due to the new drug policies and so forth. I would ask for a motion to approve this change with the other change or addition of cannabis being added to /marijuana.
Sounds good.
Is that good? Do you want to?
Oh, so moved.
Okay, motion by Joe.
I'll second.
Second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And as carried. Next, we have the request to hire. We'll do two different motions here. Request to hire Maureen Kinney for court clerk in the amount of $20.50 per hour. And this will be, her start date would be June 20th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chuck. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. And then a motion to change Elizabeth Wilbur's hourly rate to $21 an hour. And this would start when as the senior court clerk, and this will start when Maureen starts her new employment on the 20th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Joe.
I'll second.
Second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. H is an ODA and Hyler Drive. And this is what we normally do on this is to refer it to our planning board. So do I have a motion to refer to the planning board?
So moved.
Motion by
Jim.
Jim. Second.
I'll second.
Second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. Next, we have the recreation new program for diving program. We were going to do something with that motion.
We were gonna
85%.
85%, yeah.
Is that correct? Okay, so I just don't know that's going to make a difference with the people that he's dealing with, whether it's 85 or 95.
I imagine,
Would you rather-
my question is, do we set the policy 85, I assume to, I mean, there's gotta be some
It's always
expenses
been
covered,
85.
right?
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
been a policy or not, but it's always been 85.
There should at least be a reason to explain why it's differing from the normal
Okay.
policy or practice.
Well, then, why don't we make a motion to approve it based upon 85%? Okay, we have a motion
I'll make that motion.
by Chuck,
Second.
second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. Hubbard cabin demolition. I have a motion to authorize Dave Gunner, Highway Superintendent, to go ahead with the demolition with the caveat of trying to save the, is it a wooden R or?
Yeah, a
wooden
circle R.
A circle R.
Yeah.
Well, I have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Jim,
I'll second.
second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. And these are from Kathleen Moffett. She requests to amend the budget to record the increase in CHIPS funding to be received by the Highway Department. The amendment is as follows: increase revenue line DB 3501 state aid CHIPS by $11,601.29. And increase appropriation line DB 5112.433 permanent improvement materials and supplies by $11,601.29. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Chuck. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? and it is carried. Next, this is a request to hire a new assessor clerk. And this is Kathleen Eckert of 69 Hillcrest Avenue in East Aurora. And this should be a part-time clerk at the rate of $17.50 per hour. And she'll be replacing the former clerk, Leah DeFilippo, who resigned effective 4/14/2023. Her start date will be Tuesday, May 30th. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second.
second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and it is carried. Next, we have the 2022 stormwater report. Do I have a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chuck,
I'll second.
second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's carried. And our addition N, which is a request to hire Nathaniel Bender, who resides at 45 Center Ridge Road. And he's going to be a seasonal laborer for the highway department at the rate of $15 per hour. His start date would be May 23rd, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring?
So moved.
Motion by Joe. Have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. Next, we have communications and reports. We have the dog control, the work requisitions, and the Erie County Clerk. We have the dog control work requisitions, April 2023 reports, and the Erie County Clerk's 2022 annual report. Next, we have business from the board members, and let's start with Joe.
As I mentioned earlier, today the town Facebook page went live. I sent a invitation to act as moderators to every member of the board that has Facebook. Jim Bach, I do not believe that you have a Facebook page, so you did not receive said invitation. I started with a couple announcements, one about the West Falls meeting, the advisory committee meeting, and one laying out the schedule for town board meetings. And we'll take it from there. It should be a very boring page if it meets the criteria we set out. Yes, exactly right. The other thing I did, Luke and I participated in a conversation with the county concerning food waste and getting it out of the landfills. And it was pretty interesting. They have a pretty cool program going. We don't know if we're going to participate or yet, but we'll find out more information, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to start a voluntary pilot program with residents and see how it goes. They actually have a collection site at the Alden Correctional Facility that they take care of in its entirety. So they're just waiting for approvals from the jail personnel to allow municipal waste to be dumped there due to security concerns. But I will update everybody as more information becomes available.
I think one note about that, I mean, there's the environmental impact, which is big, but also financially, if we have a composting program, you save so much. I mean, some towns in Colorado and other places that have robust composting situations, because your garbage doesn't stink if you're putting everything in the composting. They've went from 1 week collection to 2 week because you have so much less garbage, and it saved them, almost half of their garbage bills. So it's interesting to see where the county is going to move forward with that.
Yeah.
You're good. That it, Joe?
And that is it.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Oh, Joe, you're modest. So Joe, last week had set up a tour of Majors Park to get an idea of where trails should go. I took part in that, and I was able to essentially take an outside tour of Hubbard's cabin and was able to get a little bit of the history on that and see up close and personal the damage. So I'm glad that the board's taking this action right now. In addition to that, I met with Adirondack USA. They're responsible for not only tourism in that area, but also setting up trails. The majority of their trails are state funded and state operated with state rangers, but they have a number of them that are controlled by the municipalities, and they're able to plan out based on essentially Google Maps from satellite look at where a mapping can be made. And a lot like Joe, when you were walking the other day, you had we had our satellite out and able to locate where we were. So they said they would be willing to assist us with that. The next thing, it was on the agenda a couple of weeks ago, but the U.S. Army Band is going to be playing at Majors Park on July 2nd. Jim Melchewski was kind enough to come out and talk to the county, and the county donated the band shell. So we've thanked you, but I appreciate you seeing here today and appreciate you coming down, taking a look at the nonprofit facility, and also making that donation not only to us but also to the Village of East Aurora as well. So appreciate that very much.
I'm sorry, where are they playing, Jim?
They're playing it. Did I say Majors?
You did,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
They're playing in West Falls. Yeah, I'm sorry.
All
Not a major. Yeah. We're gonna clear some trees out and put a band shell there.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
It's a good way to save money and get your trail if you have the.
Yeah. But the U.S. Army Band is coming. So I think that's pretty interesting. They don't play a lot of concerts every year, but now they're starting to do that. So
Awesome.
appreciate that.
Anything else?
Well, as you know, the bathrooms over at the pool park are now up and functional. Our code enforcement officer, Liz Cassidy, has given it her blessings. And I did a preliminary final walkthrough with our architect, William Height. We found a few things, but nothing major that need to be repaired before we do the final, and we'll be done with it. And I just want to say that what we did over at the pool park all the way around, not just the bathroom, but the roofs and the painting and the upgrades and the plumbing fixtures and everything that we did it's a great project that will serve the town for the next 30 years with minimal maintenance. And it was just excellent use of our ARPA funds. So I want to thank the board for working with me and all of us and getting that done. So,
And kudos to you, Chuck, for spearheading that. I know you're
well,
the guy.
I couldn't do it without you guys. That's for sure. So thanks.
Great, thanks. Luke?
Couple of things. So the first thing, the Climate Smart Community Task Force met again. And there's going to be a lot here about grants. We're being flooded with grant opportunities. It's really tough. So we need to think about how we can spread out our resources and really get to some of these. The complete streets policy is on me. I actually went to a training about it that actually had a lot of good notes about what works and what doesn't work. So that's still on me. But if we do get that done, we have to meet the deadline of July 15th, maybe. If we submit that, then we should be good to get our bronze certification, which puts us in to apply to grants up to $2 million. And there's a whole bunch of them. So the task force is really good and active. They'll help us out with a lot of that, but it's just a lot to handle. The grants that you sent over, Jim, those are also really good. I think we would qualify for quite a few of those. So it's going to be busy. The sort of main public event that the Climate Smart Community Task Force is doing is Scoot Around June. So this is an event to encourage more walking, biking to do daily tasks, primarily within the village it would be. And so we're launching that on Wednesday. Looking for businesses to do day, weekly, monthly sponsorships where they put up a QR code. If you walk or bike, you can check in and then put yourself in a raffle or get like a free one out of every 10 people gets a free coffee or something. So it's an interesting event. And we'll see how that goes.
When is it?
It'll be starting June 1st. So the whole month of June. And we're launching it on Wednesday. And Rick Oler did an article for the Advertiser as well. So that's all going to be together. But then we finally were ducks in a row and all the websites and everything are taken care of. Should be good. Then we'd like to announce the big raffle on July 3rd at the fireworks, before the fireworks. So, then the West Falls Advisory Board is meeting on May 31st at the West Falls Fire Hall. And there's two parts to that. Number one is to go over the DOT's plans for the for Route 240. They did some patchwork this year. People were really complaining about it. I had nothing to do with that, although we got a lot of messages like, thank you for that. Nothing to do with it. And then the big project will be starting next year. So the main engineer changed and this new one is coming. And so should be a good opportunity for everybody to talk about primarily their drainage issues down there. And then the second part of the meeting is talking about the New York Forward application. As I mentioned before, Joe and I had a follow-up meeting with the application committee, and they are willing to review our application before we submit it, work with us to try to make the application the best it can be. We were very close to getting it last time. And the culmination that will be coming out for a tour. They'll do a walking tour one day with us when we'll have everybody in place to go over all those different projects that we have. And one big advantage this year is that we're so much further along with a lot of the projects, including the Art Center and the Blueberry Treehouse Farm and what Scott Beeler has done. So it could be exciting. Let's hope, it's a lot of work for that as well, but let's hope we put together a stronger application this year to get us over the edge. Other than that, we do have the social media policy that's out there. We do need to have all the administrators come together to do a short training to put what you need to put on the page, what we had approved, just to sort of check that off. So I don't know, it should be during the day. We can do really whenever. Let's say whenever you want to do it, let me know. We need Dave, Chris, Liz, Rob. Should take 10 minutes just to say, this is what you have to post. This is what you can post and can't post. These are the comments you can take off. And that's pretty much it. So we just got to check that off.
Hey, sorry to tag on to your thing, Luke. I did sign up for the CFA training for those grants. I think that's Wednesday. So I'm gonna try and learn about the waterfront rehabilitation, and there's a couple other classes they're offering to kind of explain what's eligible for those grants.
Yeah, your head can spin with them. It's just
I can't believe how many are coming. I mean, it's like, holy cow, where's all this money coming?
We need to identify those that are most important for the community, where we have a real chance to win, and then concentrate on those. So, but it's really, there's a lot of money out there that's coming down. So.
Okay.
Yep.
All done?
Yep.
Okay. I'm all set tonight. So we'll go right to audience, and this is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the board on any items whatsoever. I know this guy. Jim, come on up.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Supervisor Bach, members of the Aurora Town Board. Thank you very much for having me back again. As we talked today, I was coming out to see you tomorrow. After we talked, I was kind of looking through my schedule, seeing you guys had a town board meeting, and thought this would be a great time to come out tonight. The reason I was coming out tomorrow was to deliver some goods. I see you got a nice check from the youth baseball earlier, and I have a couple of them over here for you. Just to update you guys on what's been happening with the legislature since the last time that I've been here. The big thing was the bond resolution that made headlines, and a lot of people were a little bit nervous about the roads. First time the minority caucus has ever shut it down, and insisted that we open up the books, take a look at everything. We had some great negotiations. We were able to find and pull a bunch of money out, which we were able to allocate to the new stadium. The money the cash that we were allocating to the new stadium is going to cut down on the amount of money borrowed, saving taxpayers about $80 to $82 million in interest over the life of the loan. And then we were also able to allocate some money for community development funding. The town of Aurora is going to be a nice beneficiary of some of that. I'm here tonight as part of this. There's some intermunicipal agreements, and tonight I'm giving you the contracts for the Aurora Senior Center. They're getting some money, and Robert Goller, the historian's getting some money. You mentioned earlier the West Falls Center for the Arts. I'm going out there tomorrow with their contracts as they're getting some money. The Friends of Knox Park is getting some money. They have the Solstice program, which is going over there, which this is going to help sponsor that. And the Roycroft is getting some money. So these negotiations were very productive, and it's a great way to help out all of the individual communities in my district, which, starts in West Seneca, Elma, Marilla, Aurora, Wales, Holland, Colden. So we're able to spread out some of this money, and hopefully everybody benefits off of that. So I thank you very much. And after the meeting, I'll go through these with you and
Okay.
we can go there.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there anybody else here that wants to give us money first or no? Okay.
That's the point.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, my name is Corinne Moderacion. I live on Hubbard Road and I'm only here because of the cabin. The Majors Park backs into my property and I've walked by the cabin a number of times and I've seen it deteriorate over time. But I also think that it is connected to the history of the Roycroft. It was built by Hubbard's brother, and it is mentioned and illustrated on a number of the Roycroft documents. I just find it hard to believe that we can't do something other than destroy it, if only because the connection between nature and the Roycroft is so significant. And it would be a way of drawing people to Majors Park and connecting it both thematically, but also even commercially to the Roycroft Inn. East Aurora has never been just a destination. The Roycroft Inn is not just a destination, it's a way of life. And the natural setting and the park setting is crucial to the history of the movement. I just wonder if there isn't some other way of, at a time when we know a developer is really interested in the history of the Roycroft, if there isn't another way of doing something with this connection between the town and the park. I don't know. I mean, again, is that a message we want to send out at a time when there's so many people who have Roycroft houses that they could let deteriorate, and then, you know, what's the message? Just condemn and destroy it? We can't do that. That's my own personal opinion, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've talked about this for many years, and we had our historian here last meeting, and he kind of said that there really isn't any connection to Albert or Hubbard, right?
It was his kids was what he said had built the cabin.
Yeah.
And then the cabin isn't, most of it isn't original. Oh, his brother's kids. Okay. And the majority of the cabin isn't original. It's just a small portion that's still part of the original structure, is what we were told by the town historian. But if you want to add.
I understand that. A lot of restoration in the Roycroft have been done without honoring the original, right? It's not as simple as it's not original. It is a legacy, and it's part of, we keep trying to keep Roycroft alive, if only through certifying new artists, right? So we can't quite say that something that comes in the 1910s is not original, right? Like, it's part of the history, even if it's just through the connection with nature, which was so important to Hubbard, right? Every time he wrote, he went out into a cabin and withdrew from, the social world in order to write. I just find the connection is there, whether every little piece in the place was original or not, right? We are now in the 21st century claiming it a continuity. So we can't possibly say 1915, 1916 is not original, right?
Can I just add something? So the Open Space Committee, I'm not sure if you're familiar with our work, but we are in the process of making that section of Majors Park more accessible to the public. And we're mapping trails, and the high school kids are actually not these high school kids. These ones are lazy, but the other high school kids are building trail markers and stuff. And you guys making the trail markers? Didn't think so. So anyway, and I love your idea. My concern is, and I think the concern shared by the board, is that it's unsafe. We don't want somebody to get hurt. However, it has been discussed putting something in that space to honor its history, right? In conjunction with the trails that we're building and maintaining that connection in nature, which is the important part, right? The structure is a structure, but if we can promote that connection in nature, and ultimately the hope is that those trails are going to connect to Owens Falls, which are across the street. So we're going to make a heck of a loop with varied topography. The trails actually they're elevated over the wetlands back there. And they're gorgeous. You can see the wetlands 4 seasons, you know,
I know,
go
I
back
live
there.
there.
Yeah, you know, and I don't have to
exactly
tell
what
you.
you're talking about.
So I think the goal, and I invite you to participate in the open space committee, because the goal is to make nature more accessible to the residents. But for me anyway, it's really comes down to safety. I don't know how we keep that building safe and keep people from getting hurt, which it would tear me up inside if somebody were to get injured in that building.
Right, but that's where restoration comes in, right? So it's about providing or fundraising or providing the resources in order to create something out of what's there. And I just want to say, even if you go to Letchworth, I happen to go to a lot of primitive campings. I went to Arkansas, there were old mining homes, right? There's something really special about connecting nature to a history, right? And that's what that property does. Like, it's very small. It's not a major initiative, but it would create a connection. And it's right at the beginning of the trail, right? What a perfect setting. Because, you know, when you destroy it, you're going to put something like at the other end of Hubbard, the Majors Park, you know, somebody is going to build something else in order to say, this is the beginning of the trail. But you have something that has a connection to the history from the 1910s. I mean, it feels like it's worth investigating a little bit further to do some fundraising or appeal to some kind of preservationist model in order to have that open the trail, right? Because it's from the 1910s and it's the brother of Hubbard. And I mean, again, imagine somebody who owns a property that's connected to the history. And I'm thinking about the Fournier house and, you know, deteriorating year after year, and then suddenly deciding to destroy it, right? Because it's unsafe. I mean, why would we allow that? Why would we even think of it when it's there, when it's just a matter of, you know, I get unsafe, but that's a matter of restoration.
Certainly not an expert in these things. And I agree, you know, when we have older things, we should preserve them. We don't have that many in this country, in this town. But my understanding from people who know more about this than I do is that even if we did want to undertake a restoration effort, we would be rebuilding the cabin. Now, I'm an attorney, so that's outside of my field, but we have been told that, number one, yes, the historical value is there, but it is not connected to Albert Hubbard. It's a second generation, but there still is history. I agree. But even if we did all agree right here, right now, let's put in the effort to preserve it, there's not much that would be preservable in that cabin. And when you look at it, that is my impression, again, not being an expert here. So I think we have tried to look at it and gather thoughts from the community. And, you know, if there is a preservationist who has a different opinion that would say something different, then that's terrible that we didn't get that opinion. But I think that the effort, if anything, would be to rebuild in the same model as it is, using the same technologies that it has, because it's so far gone.
Anybody else?
I did have one question though. You said it was built in the 1910s. We're told that it was built a good 2 or more decades after Albert Hubbard had passed away, and that it was built
1923 as a picture on the one of the periodicals from Hubbard as a picture of the cabin on it. I can provide that.
Yeah,
From
because I think, unless I
1925.
misheard, I thought we were
I
told.
just thought it was 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
Oh, 2 or 3 years.
After
Oh, I misheard.
Albert
Okay.
After
was gone.
Albert, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Hubbard died, yeah. But it's still part of, I mean, we are part of the legacy, right? Today. I mean, it just breaks my heart, but.
I would have to agree with Luke. I think it could probably, we build it. But to fix that building, and I've been up there and looked at it, Chuck's been up there and looked at it. Our building inspector, I don't see any fixing that building at all. You could rebuild it, maybe build it. They could have fundraiser or something and build a new one that
Look like
mimic
that.
the old one. But to fix that one,
There's a lot of historical buildings that where they identify, like the fireplaces, obviously from the period. There are actual beams that are from the period. It's worthwhile identifying for people what's original and what's not, and it's really intriguing to. I study culture and literature, and for me, there's nothing more exciting than going to even a natural setting with residual, right, aspect of the time period. There's nothing more attractive, right? I could imagine the space attracting people whose families would be staying at the Roycroft Inn, and they would be more attracted to that area and the cabin. Because that would be my case.
and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that for everything and everyone I've talked to, maybe you could rebuild it, but to fix the one that's there, it's too far gone. I mean, we could sit there, but I mean, we've seen it. It's
How,
About and rebuild anything, that's. Go back and forth on that,
Yeah.
but,
What have you got?
it's doable. It's not impossible, it's just a matter of.
Start.
okay.
well, I'll toss this out there. Did you say that you would hire an engineer to come in and you had, what year? A week ago?
I mean,
If he wants to
Yeah.
write a report to the board saying that this building can be rebuilt using whatever, some shoring up, whatever, I think we should be open to reading that report.
And can be
And
made
Dave's
safe.
not going to be over there tomorrow tearing that down anyway. So
no,
And can be made safe in the short term.
absolutely.
Yeah, I just don't feel comfortable with that sitting there. Somebody's gonna have to provide funding quickly.
Yeah.
To make that safe. And I don't think, and I recognize your passion. I share your passion for historical things, but the fact of the matter is, I don't think taxpayers as a whole want to be on the hook for this project, right? And it's been there since 23. It's probably been in a state of horrible disrepair for 20 years. So I understand the last minute effort, but there's, yeah.
I mean, it's been there a long time. There is a safety issue. It is posted, right? Let's wait for an engineering report. See what, like Chuck suggests.
Why don't we just mention to Dave, is there like yellow caution tape around the building or anything, Liz? To keep people out?
I put a work order in to have Dave fence in the
Okay,
building.
Yeah.
okay.
So let's get it fenced in as soon as we can and then.
Yep.
It
And then,
also has officially been condemned. I don't know. I mean, what paperwork you file on that, Liz, or what? Right. I have a copy of it, but can you uncondemn a piece of property after you condemn it?
well, yeah.
And work.
When can you have us this report? You say it already exists?
No, I just. Or it was condemned. So,
And
Well, if he could get that to us, in a week or two, we'll speak to Dave and I'm sure he won't have a problem just holding off for a couple of months.
He said he couldn't get to it right away anyway.
Yeah.
yeah, and townboard@townofaurora.com. Feel free to email us your further thoughts based on the conversation.
Okay.
What type of literature? Do you-
I
Okay.
All right, anybody else? We want to address the board on any item whatsoever? Nobody? Okay. We'll go to staff reports. And I got Shane.
I've got
Nothing. Okay. Nobody else, right? We are not having an executive session tonight, so we'll go right to the approval of the abstract. We have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Joe. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Before we adjourn, I'm assuming you all need signatures, right? So why don't a couple of us go down to the table there and sign them for him, because I know I'm gonna have to sign some stuff for Jim. So you can come up to this table here. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?